In this lesson, we'll be animating the downline. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up our downline comp. Again, let's make our composition size a little bit larger for this one. Not too much, just enough to be able to have a little more room to work. And I'm going to scoot this over a bit just so it's a little bit better centered. There we go. And then let's go ahead and we'll come in and make this a vector or a shape layer from our vector layer. Delete our original. This one, maybe on this one, instead of doing our same old trim paths, we could change it up a little bit. So let's bring in our scale. Let's start that at 0, but set our keyframe at 100. So we could just have this one kind of pop up like this. And maybe instead of having this go all the way to 100 right off the bat, we'll have it go a little bit past that. So maybe up to like 105 or so. So it's going to get a little bit bigger and then kind of come back down. So we'll give it 10 frames to get to that 106 size. And then let's give it 5 frames or so to get back down to 100. And for these, you don't really need the graph editor. You can just select all of them and go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. And that's the perfect interpolation for this type of thing. So if I go just past it and hit the N key, we can watch that through. Now right now, it feels like it might be flickering a little bit, but imagine this when this is at 100%. It looks like that. Now, with that in mind, we actually might want to come in here and have this get a little bit longer because it's hard to even really tell how much bigger it's getting. So I don't want it to get much wider though. And you can see when I scale this up, it's scaling in both the X and the Y. So what I can do is on this one, break that proportion. And we'll come over here to our second value and just turn that up until those are completely white. So it's going to kind of bounce up and then come back down. So now when we're at 100%, it's going to look like that. Very nice. Let's actually maybe not have it be quite so much. Just take it down maybe halfway between what we had it at and there. Very nice. Okay, so that is perfect. That's a nice little animation for our downline. Let's turn on our motion blur and our main switch. This one you cannot see any kind of a dot from, so we don't need to push it forward, but you can if you want to. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next shape, which I think we can still knock out in this same lesson, which is going to be our X cross. So I'm going to open that up and you'll see what that looks like. So this one's going to be slightly different because it's got two shapes that we're working with. So I want to mess with their rotation and trim path. So I'm going to select both of them, right click, create shapes from vector layer. We'll delete the originals. We'll add trim paths to both of these. Now you have to do that one at a time. It does not allow you to select multiples to add trim paths. And then let's start this out at 0 in the trim paths. We'll give it about 10 frames to come into view. I'm just using Shift and page down to go forward those 10 frames. And we'll key those end properties. There we go. So it's going to come up like that. But I also want them to be rotating. So let's select the layer and bring up its rotation. We'll just come in there like that. And I'm going to end it at the rotation that it's at now. But I want to begin it with it rotated exactly onto the other one. So that's going to be a negative 90 degrees for this one. And then I can just pull that back to the beginning. And for this one, we'll start it there. And to rotate it to where the other one would begin is going to be a positive 90 degrees. So you can just type that in. So you can see kind of how they come out and together this way. Great. Let's go ahead and go into our graph editor to really smooth those parts out. Very, very quick and easy to do. So I'm just looking at those. Let's just try doing these one at a time because we have so many lines it can start to get confusing. So I'll just select the end one. We'll go ahead and do our same little thing that we've been doing, selecting the final key, clicking Easy Ease in, pulling out the handle. Select the final key, Easy Ease in, hold Shift, pull out the handle, and repeat for the other side. Now this is a little bit repetitive, I will admit, but it's very good practice. Okay, so now let's take a look at our bit. Very nice. And then I want to do one more thing to take it one step further, even still. I'm going to Shift select both of these and pre-compose them. So I'll hit Control Shift C and we'll call this X lines. Go ahead and make sure that everything's checked the way you want it to. We'll go ahead and say OK. And all I want to do here is rotate this. So I'm going to rotate it where it ends up here, but I want it to start out upside down. So just like that. So that's going to be -180. And we'll go ahead and come back here to the beginning and pull that back. And let's give that about 15 frames to finish. So I'll hold Shift and hit page down once, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go those 5 extra frames. And we'll also go into the graph editor on this one and do our same little method there. So you can see how it kind of spins down and out. Very, very cool and different way to show that. Now, one other thing we want to do is turn on our collapse transformations. So we'll be looking inside of this comp for things like motion blur. Now, we will want to have that turned on here, but we can go one layer deeper and make sure motion blur is turned on there as well. Perfect. So our X is finished as well as our downline. Now in our next lesson, we're going to go in and begin animating one of our letters. So we'll be starting with the letter Y.